On this TV mic, we chatted with Vincent Nezzer, newly minted VP of Strategic Delivery at Avenue Z. We get into the thick of it, how AI is reshaping search, and why marketers should stop fearing the future and start adapting. He shares how his career in content evolved into leading cross-functional innovation, all while being a proud dog dad and a trader superfan. Let's pass the mic. Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Moon, Director of Content here at ClearVoice, and welcome to ClearVoice Mic, Marketers in Conversation. And today I'm joined by Vincent Nezzer. I said it wrong. I did say it wrong. I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, it's okay.
And today I'm joined by Vincent Nezzer. I got it. He is the Director of AI Strategy over at Avenue Z, and we're going to see where the conversation takes us today. Hey, Vincent.
Hi, Taylor. How are you doing?
I'm great. And you?
I'm doing really well. I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. And I'll just spill the beans. There's probably a few people that might watch and know, but most will not. But I'm happy to reconnect with Vincent because we once upon a time worked at the same agency. So it's a pleasure to be back. And we worked at different capacities, but we, funny enough, sat right across from one another. And I still distinctly remember, Vincent, I always had a good day. We had a mustard yellow cardigan. And some days we would show up wearing that same cardigan. And I was like, today's a good day.
I still have that cardigan.
You do? I do too. It's a little too hot right now. But yes, those were good days. Vincent, for those that obviously do not know you, do you mind kind of just introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you're at right now?
Sure thing. My name is Vincent Nezzer. I'm in Orlando, Florida. Interestingly, I just moved here from Las Cruces, New Mexico for a job with Avenue Z. And also, interestingly, my title just changed today. I was given a promotion. So promoted from the Director of AI Strategy to the Vice President of Strategic Delivery.
That's awesome, Vincent. It sounds like there's a lot of things happening at Avenue Z in general. You know, just even from AI strategy and everything, I get a sense maybe that's why there's a shift in your title.
Totally.
You want to kind of open the doors there, if you will? That's where we
Totally. Our agency is relatively new. We're about 2 years from our inception, which was a merger and acquisition of 3 companies, a PR company in New York, media company in New Jersey, which recently moved to Miami, and an organic content marketing and web development company in Orlando, which is where I'm working now. Those 3 pillars, which very neatly line up with owned, earned, and paid media, make up our full service marketing agency. And at the same time, 2 years ago is really when ChatGPT came on the scene. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. I think it was just in May that they reached 1 billion users. And because we're seeing this massive change in people using ChatGPT and Perplexity and other platforms for search, it's really the first time we've seen that sort of change since the 90s when Google took over AOL and Yahoo. Our agency is updating how we deliver our services to be able to make more of an impact on AI engines, which work a little bit different than traditional search engines. So that's what you're seeing with my role and my title and things changing over here.
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up pretty perfectly. I love what you said because I've had healthy conversations and healthy debates with people. But I love that you said the AI platforms as a search engine themselves. I've been trying to kind of instill that in some people and say that AI or GEO, AEO, you know, these new terms that they're very integrated within traditional SEO, but there's differences and we're still learning a lot. But it's interesting. A lot of people are still stuck that only means AI overviews or AI searches within Google. It's like, no, a lot of people are actually utilizing chat or other LLMs as almost an engine itself, and the way you correspond with it and the way the results show up, there's similarities, but they're also very different. Um, you want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. In many ways, the AI overviews are Google trying to catch up to some of the other search experiences. They're updating their user interface because people are interested in a different type of experience that they've come to expect from platforms like ChatGPT and Perplexity. Interestingly, and if you look at the market share, the number one platform by more than 50% in answer engines is ChatGPT, followed by Microsoft Copilot, which is, they also use ChatGPT heavily in the development of their tool, which takes us to like 60 or 70%. And then Google Gemini and AI overviews are like a small sliver of the rest of that pie, as well as Perplexity and Grok and some of the others. What I like to think of it as, it's almost like how a paid social marketer has Facebook and Instagram and Reddit and Twitter, and you go to these experts for a point of view on which are the best platforms for their audience. I'm thinking that the search landscape is going to look more like that moving forward too, with multiple different platforms that we have to think about instead of just optimizing for Google all the time, which is what most of us have been doing for the last 20 years.
I think it's interesting because you're very right of like audience and who your brand is and stuff. Obviously, it's a little nuanced, it's a little different, but things are gonna kind of shift. And I'm sure you see parallels or differences within brands. Like, hey, this is more heavily Google search, whereas we might see that discrepancy like in something like social, right? But we're gonna start to see like, hey, your audience leans a little bit more towards this. We shouldn't necessarily get away to this on the AI side. We need to kind of keep up to speed as things shift and navigate, keep a pulse on it. But here's how the audience acts. On another brand, it could be the total opposite, where people have kind of devoid of traditional search. But that doesn't mean it's still not relevant because it's also helping to feed things too. So it's like this weird handshake, if you will. It's interesting. There's a lot of fear right now, and I kind of sometimes laugh at the fear because I'm like, this is what it's all about. I mean, do you kind of feel the same? What are your thoughts on a lot of people that are more hesitant, if you will?
I mean, people are afraid of change because it's uncertain. People don't know if they're going to lose their jobs to AI tools or if they will be forced to do more larger workloads with AI and not able to hire because people are sort of believing that you should be able to do more with less now. And there's always a seed of truth in fear, but I think it's important to look at this also as an opportunity. And the people who embrace change and who ride the wave and learn how to use AI to their advantage will have a leg up moving forward. So
Yeah.
TLDR, I don't like to make fear-based decisions.
It's interesting. I was actually talking to Stephanie Yoder. She's actually director of content over at Rebrandly. And we were having a conversation about how when Google first announced its first core algorithm change, or like, when mobile get it, and like mobile became like a huge emphasis and focus, and people were freaking out. Like they didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to handle it holistically, but also in the market, like in the marketing realm. Um, and like we're fine. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we'll be okay. We're in this kind of figure it out discovery phase, and we are figuring it out, and more will change. But there's change is good in a certain degree, right? Like there's always a little bit of fear, and that's natural and for reasons, but we always are able to kind of navigate it. That's kind of the comparison we were talking about. Do you feel like there's obviously differences, but kind of similar?
Oh, absolutely. I love the comparison to Mobilegeddon because even if you look at the phrase Mobilegeddon, it does not sound good. There's a lot of fear associated with Armageddon or end of the world. But on the flip side too, at the agency I was at the time, we used Mobilegeddon as an opportunity. We put together mobile responsive website packages for all of our clients, and we were able to secure quite a bit of additional incremental business by showing it as an opportunity rather than just getting scared and saying, everything's going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to drown in that glass of water if you let yourself.
Yep, yep.
Also, I have to say it's also interesting hearing your perspective. I know a little bit about your background and kind of where you've been. You've been on the content side of things, right? You kind of come from that space. I'd love if you can kind of walk people through, where you've been and like where you've gotten to now.
Yeah, my background at Zog Digital, which is where we were, started in the content space. Before that, I was an all-rounder at the University of New Mexico. I did marketing for the business school, and I've really touched most what I'd call owned media channels. So I did email, I did website management, SEO, social media management, and then I came over to Zog Digital, where I focused on SEO and content, and that's where we got to know each other as desk buddies. Since then, I was promoted to the director of strategy at my last organization, where I got to spend a lot of time working with really smart media strategists and specialists. And while I've run a limited number of media accounts myself, I value that collaboration as well. So media planning is something that I worked on with them. And now in my new role, I'm going to be working across all of those owned media channels I mentioned, as well as media and PR, to really develop integrated solutions that use talent from multiple different departments and streams of work to deliver an end goal, to deliver an answer or, like I said, an integrated solution rather than individual channel specific services, or even worse, being like a vendor for just churning out more and more content. We want to be strategic partners.
It's so true. In the way you even just explained everything, of like a cohesive strategy and like not just doing things for the sake of doing them, but like having a full suite solution. And yes, content is at the core of everything, but it's all connected. And if it isn't, it breaks or it just isn't as effective.
I also like, and this might be a little bit trite, I feel like we hear it a lot, but I also like the phrase, start with the why. Really figure out why you're doing something and make sure that what you're doing always ladders up to answer that question, and not just doing things to do things, like you said.
I'm with you. I know a lot of people are like, those are like filler phrases or filler words or like, but it's like they got that way for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Vincent, kind of tell me what's been going on. You obviously moved recently.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about it before recording, but what prompted that move? Was it kind of a necessary thing? Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, again, for anyone who doesn't know, Taylor and I worked at the same company, and it was for someone named Jeff Herzog. I worked there for years and years through all of the acquisitions, but Jeff's latest company is called Avenue Z, and I heard that he was starting a new company. I heard that he had his sights set on something newer and different, and I moved over to join him and help deliver the vision. My initial role when I started was going to be sort of our head of AI strategy, but as I mentioned early on, I just was elevated to vice president of strategic delivery. So outside of just that sort of single service of AI, I'm trying to focus on integrating more and more services into different integrated service lines. So our AI optimization is one of them. That includes content, PR, and technical optimization, but I'll also be looking at other services to create and integrate in the future. For example, rather than just selling email marketing or SMS, looking to blend that into a life cycle marketing department that really focuses on the goal of keeping people in your funnel throughout the life cycle of their time with you, and monetizing that behavior along the way, which fulfills both the audience need and the brand need.
I see a lot of potential for like fun campaigns all within that too. I'm like,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of like opportunity, right? Like that. It just sounds like a fun, challenging opportunity and experience altogether. And my assumption is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you were just like, I gotta be there. There is something about in-person collaboration, really, at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a big proponent for remote work as well. I did it for years. We work remotely 2 days out of the week, but particularly because we are moving and changing and shifting so quickly, being in the office does allow a sort of slightly more agile approach to meetings and scrums, daily conversations. So I really did want to be here while we stabilize our new service lines and really solidify our growth model.
Just there's a power in a face-to-face conversation in person and being able to be strategic and bounce ideas off of one another, and especially like you're saying in such a high growth stage. I think it makes sense. But I'm also very curious. I'm sure kind of knowing Jeff as well in the way he leads, he's always one step ahead. I kind of was following along, and he was on AI from the get go, where I feel like a lot of people are in kind of a catch up or reactive mode. I feel like you and y'all there are very, yes, of course you have to react, but also being very proactive within it and kind of getting ahead of things and learning and testing things out. And I'm sure you experience this a lot, but what are the regular instances of clients or concerns? I'm sure they have a little bit of fear or more just like curiosity in the realm of things. And how are you kind of navigating that with them?
There is a lot of interest in AI, both in terms of our leadership and Jeff, as you called out, as well as our clients and new sales prospects. So I guess I'm going to divide this answer into two parts. One is how we are trying to sort of rework our agency to use AI tools more frequently. We have an AI council. We just met yesterday. We have another meeting next week, and the whole purpose is to find opportunities to streamline our processes and create new tools and processes for team members to be able to adopt and use moving forward. And then the other half of it is really making sure that we can capture that new demand from people who want to optimize how they are seen in AI engines for their customers. And we were on a call with someone who works at Microsoft Copilot, working on their Perplexity and Copilot shopping integration. And he really said it better than I can, but it's almost like AI is the black box, and CEOs just want to know what's in the box. So between that desire and then also the desire to streamline our services and be more efficient, we're talking about AI almost every day.
Does it get tiresome, or is it just like, no, this is fun and interesting?
At work, I'm certainly not tired of talking about it at work. Where I think I get wearisome is when I get on social media and I'm getting ads from these companies too, and then it's also on LinkedIn, and it's all everyone's talking about on LinkedIn, and so I think I maybe need to retrain my Instagram algorithm a little bit, but at work it's very exciting.
It's an interesting place, I feel like, to be right now, but it's also a very fun place. But leave it at work too.
I've heard Sam Altman, and I'm probably going to misquote him, but he says that different generations adopt ChatGPT differently. I can't remember exactly what he said about older and middle-aged audiences, but he said that younger audiences use it like an operating system. They attach all their files with it. They give it all of their content and documents, and they use it for absolutely everything. Whereas older generations use it more selectively or for certain tasks. And then just one more thought is we've seen so many sci-fi movies or TV shows that have people who have these like microchips in their brain that allow them to do X, Y, and Z, or the future goggles that analyze and scan things and give you information. And now that it's here, we're afraid of it. So I don't know what that means for us, but I think it's exciting.
I do too, honestly. I view it as an opportunity more than anything, of what can, be the potential, as opposed to going so Black Mirror, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to ignore the real challenges that AI has, copyright infringement, bias in terms of the information it used in its training material, not reflecting all audiences. There even environmental challenges. AI is not perfect, but it's here. So I'd rather adopt it and then work on making it better than run in the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious if there's maybe whether it's AI related or not. I'm curious if there's a recent maybe campaign or strategy that maybe you're really proud of, or maybe one that challenged you. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, the project I'm working on is largely constructing and advancing our services, like I mentioned, across PR, content, and we'll call it technical optimization, but that's really sort of our SEO service line, and advancing them to create our AI optimization service line.
Mm-hmm.
Sidebar, I think it's funny that no one can agree what it's called yet. We call it AIO. You mentioned GEO and AEO.
Yeah,
I even saw an Ahrefs article that called it LLMO. So there's,
that's a new one. I haven't seen that.
yeah, the jury's out on the correct acronym, but we're calling it AIO. And so the project has been working with each of our individual centers of excellence on upgrading how we do work to most effectively influence the AI models. And so that work has been both challenging and rewarding. I think it's really transformative to our business. And like I said earlier, the clients are like, "What's in the box?" So
Yeah.
both challenging and rewarding.
I'm curious on if you were to give someone advice, like how to elevate their strategy holistically, or maybe specifically their content strategy in today's landscape, if you will, what advice would you give them to kind of elevate or get started within that strategy?
Sure thing. The advice that I would give is to focus less on top of funnel content. For example, I I had a client at my old organization that had a piece of content specifically focused on Sudoku, but they ultimately sold senior living. And while there is sort of a tangential connection between brain aging and brain games and Sudoku and seniors who have a larger need for keeping their brain sharp, ultimately, I don't think that content would work today in the realm of AI. It was very successful for SEO. They were ranking on the top page of Google for a number of Sudoku keywords, including how to play Sudoku. But in the realm of AI, that content's just going to get chewed up and spit back out in an answer engine box or in some sort of chat. And in order to make sure that your brand is really getting some sort of equity or mention or even click back to your website, I would recommend that you refocus your content strategy to be more focused on your brand, your products, how your products solve real problems for your audience, and focus less on using content marketing to drive top of funnel traffic and interest, because that's going to get harder and harder as we go. Anecdotally, I don't know if you've heard or if you've seen the articles about Figma and Canva and HubSpot losing
Yes,
gads of clicks to
really what just came to my mind. Yeah.
Google Search Console, but yeah, I suspect that they're changing their content strategy to be more focused on their products than top of funnel content about the Oxford comma, or who knows what HubSpot's talking about.
I mean, and these are prominent brands that luckily have the visibility as is, just in brand sake. So I mean, that's kudos, good for for them. But you see they focused on a lot of like what is, or very top of funnel content, whereas as opposed to focusing on that, like, I guess more mofu or bofu, even like juicier, where your audience really wants the details. Also understanding who you're speaking to, if you are a HubSpot, if you are you know what I mean. At the end of the day, I also follow Lachey Lewis. I don't know if you're familiar, but she's very much a bofu queen of bottom of funnel content, but she's dove into the AI realm of like how the like bottom of funnel content and the substance there is really what's fueling a lot of visibility, retrievability within AI. So like you saying that, I love that advice, because it's kind of, I feel like, perfect. A lot of people think of the quicker wins, but they're not thinking long term as well, where it's like, cool, a Google ranking, we kind of have to shift gears a little bit. It's nice to have maybe some FAQs and stuff, right? But I think we're leaning a little bit more of like getting deeper with people, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've seen a few clients who are really afraid about talking about their service. They feel like they're giving too much away.
Mm,
And I don't agree with that perspective. I think that people see content that quote unquote gives stuff away as transparency. They like to know what they're getting into. And if the content answers their questions about how they'll use the tool or how the tool or product will help them solve their problems, for me, that can only be seen as a good thing. I don't know of many case studies that show that giving away too much content has ever caused people to lose followers or not have someone interested in their product, because
yeah.
ultimately, even if you're talking about your product and showing exactly how it works, they still need the product to be able to do the thing.
Yeah. Unless they're going to be able to build it overnight and do it themselves, which I guarantee is rare. So it's still a need. And you don't have to give away every aspect, but like,
Yeah, we're not saying post your proprietary code in your blog, but make sure people know how to use your product and exactly what it does.
yeah. And what are like, talk to the pain points, talk to the challenges. Like, why is it needed? Why is it necessary? I'm with you.
The best content fulfills brand, goal, and audience need. So talking
You heard
about your product
it.
is right in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I kind of, I guess, with a little bit more time left here, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more like personally of what's been going on, everything like that. I think I'd love for people to get to know you a bit more of like, what are you doing outside of work? Obviously trying to change your algorithm, but outside of that, what are you doing on a regular basis?
Outside of changing my algorithm and moving from New Mexico to Florida, which has been a big adjustment, I'm a gamer. I play a lot of video games. And I
Favorite?
have my favorite video game, probably the Final Fantasy series. Finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth earlier this year and got the platinum trophy. So yeah, I'm a little bit of a nerd on the side. And then I also have a dog, so anything that is dog friendly, like walking to the Lake Eola farmers market with her or looking for parks where we can take her.
Oh, yeah. We're always we relate on that. Just being dog people. And remind me, she's a rescue, yes?
Yes, I rescued her right before I moved to Phoenix and met you.
Yeah, I remember because we both have rescues and they're both a little like timid, but the sweetest dogs ever. But they have to get acclimated, as one does.
That's why they're called a rescue. You don't know what they were going through.
Yeah, but no, they're the biggest sweethearts ever. Aw.
Those are my favorite dogs to adopt.
Vincent, thank you so much for joining us and just chatting with me, sharing your story. It's been a pleasure having you. A big thanks to Vincent for joining us on the CV Mic. Want to see more of what he and the Avenue Z team are working on? Give him a follow on LinkedIn, and don't be surprised if you end up chatting AI, SEO, or the Real Housewives. We'll be back soon with more conversations across content, brand, AI, and beyond. Stay tuned. You never know who we'll hand the mic to next.